go get it as you come back for class. So what I'll have us focus on, you don't need to close your eyes just yet. Feel free to take any movements as we arrive. But what I'd like us to focus on today is our center of gravity. And we usually don't talk about that with yin or with stillness in general, because the center of gravity we're thinking about when we're walking or when we're running or when we're balancing on our feet, in a standing practice, or on our forearms or on our palms or whatever it might be. But how can we relate that center of gravity when we talk about it in movement? How can we relate to it when we're talking about it in stillness? And we can almost let ourselves breathe into that space, right? And for you, whether your center of gravity is towards your belly or towards your heart or towards the crown of the head or the soles of the feet, or maybe a bunch of these places. But more importantly, when we get to that point of balance, right, we are finding a meditation almost, right? We're having focus. So what is that center of gravity, and why are we only talking about it when we're balancing or when we're moving? Tonight in our practice, we'll talk about it through the stillness, so that when we do get to those movements, we kind of already know what it feels like. We can already sense it within, rather than sometimes feeling so sporadic. So that's what we'll talk about today. Feel free to close your eyes, and we'll kind of just let all of that sink in. Take a moment here to settle. Whether you're laying back down or sitting tall, begin to notice the breath. And as you notice your body, and maybe notice the gaze at the backs of the eyelids, and just welcoming yourself here. And even right now, noticing the contact between body and floor. Where is that center of gravity? Where is that state of equilibrium for yourself? And as you notice it, maybe you just breathe into that space. So no right or wrong. How can we treat our center of gravity like its own living and breathing thing? Almost like an accordion, where the energy might expand, but then the energy contracts. And just like our fascial tissue, when we stretch, the tissue expands and elongates. And then when we release from the pose, it contracts. So welcoming any intentions in terms of noticing our center of gravity, harnessing ourselves into that space. Welcoming any other intentions that you've brought with you to practice things that you might also be thinking about. And then we'll first honor our practice and these intentions with one cleansing breath. Together, we'll breathe in through the nose and open the lips to exhale. One more time, deep breath in. And a deep breath out. Now you might keep your hands relaxed where they are. You might gather them into prayer at heart center. If you'd like to take another cleansing breath, please do so, or join me for the sound of Om as we breathe in. Om. Very gently bowing the chin to the chest. Taking a moment to allow your breath or your vibrations to settle within the heart space, to reverberate off the walls of the inner body, and to seal our intentions for practice. And whenever you're ready, you can slowly open the eyes. You can bring the hands away, welcoming ourselves here. So we'll start this evening with an upper body stretch. We're going to start in open wing. So if you're on your back, you might just roll to your belly. But if you were sitting, if you're coming up to sit, we'll have to lay back down. So I'm going to lay in this direction. Bringing a pillow or maybe a blanket to the top of your mat, just so that you can support the side of your forehead. and just gently walking to the belly. Okay, so no rush to get there. Once you are there, though, your left arm will open out to T. Okay, so it's just going to open out to the side. It might be a little higher, it might be a little lower, or it might be pretty neutral. Just depends on your arm. For whatever reason, if this is the best stretch for you, you can bring your forehead down and you can leave your left arm there. Or we're going to let ourselves roll into that arm. Okay, but just because I'd like to stay seeing you, let me do this on the opposite side. Once the arm comes out to T, you'll roll into the shoulder so that you can stack the hips. Okay, so left arm behind you, for example, as you roll into the shoulder, knees can come up high into the chest. And then your right arm might stay relaxed here. Maybe your forearm will come down. In the event you'd like more stretch, straighten your legs. And in the event you'd like more, you can bend into the right knee and bring the foot flat. Whether that stays here or comes in front of you, feel free to do what's best. You might even want to pick up this right arm and take a half bind around the back. So feel free to play around here, finding the best place to begin. No right or wrong. And then whenever you're ready, we'll close the eyes and welcome ourselves here. If you have any questions, let me know. But within our first stretch, we'll let ourselves notice whether it's in the arm or in the side body or in the hips. You might feel sensations through the lower back, the glutes. And noticing wherever your body needs that fascial release. We'll pause here. And throughout the time of the pose, how can we support ourselves? The stillness is just an entryway or a doorway. But the experience begins to cultivate as we soften. As we allow the physical body to relax into its space. Letting go of any clenching, letting go of any gripping. Softening through the layers of muscle. And softening through the layers of bone. You might use your breath here. Breathing as deeply or as quietly as you'd like, as long as it's present. And as we stay here in open wing for a few more breaths, you can always release sooner. Within the remainder of the time, what else can we observe? Or what else can we notice here? And if you'd like to stay a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to do so. But whenever you're ready, as we slowly release, guiding that right palm back in front of us, one leg at a time, we'll lower. And then we can use this right palm to help us roll out of the left shoulder and travel back onto the belly. Feel free to let your hands rest above you or back behind you. Maybe they stack and they rest underneath the forehead. If it feels good, you can bend into the knees, and as you kick up the feet, gently windshield wiper the legs from side to side. Just rocking into the hips if that's comforting. And feel free to stay here within our moment of pause, but if you want to, you can always press your palms underneath the shoulders, lifting up through the upper back and transitioning into child's pose. Whatever will feel most comforting for you here as we take that rebound moment. Now that the fascial tissues were stretching, here in rebound, we can feel them contract. Noticing the subtle sensations within the body. And just taking this moment of resonance, giving yourself that undivided attention. And if you'd like to stay here a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to stay. But if you're ready for open wing on the opposite side, then we'll press down into the floor. We'll let ourselves walk back to the belly, unless you're already there. And then we'll come into open wing on the right. So your right arm will open out into T. From there, you'll roll into the right shoulder, maybe use a pillow or a blanket to support the head. Taking any variation, knees coming high into the chest, straightening the legs one on top of the other. Or maybe now left knee bends and the foot comes flat to the floor like a kickstand. Left arm relaxing in front of you in some way, or maybe resting up and around the back. Sometimes rolling into the shoulder isn't even an option. You might just have to stay upon the belly, forehead resting with the arm out to T. So there's no right or wrong variation within the shape. Just noticing what is best for your body this evening. Sometimes things are physically accessible, but not always energetically accessible, and vice versa. Sometimes it's energetically accessible, but not always physically. So when we arrive into these poses, we want to honor both of these narratives. And as you find the best place to begin, observing sensation, softening through the body. Rather than keeping our senses focused externally, they begin to focus internally. Your breath is helpful here. the softening of the body, the letting go of any clenching or gripping. It's just like releasing a grip of a hose. Releasing that grip off of a hose will allow the water to continuously flow. And as we soften into the body, letting go of any grip in muscles or bones or joints, we allow our own continuous current to flow. So just a few more breaths here in open wing. And again, if you'd like to stay longer, you can. But once you're ready to release, we'll guide the left palm in front of us. We'll start to roll out of the right shoulder and gently guide ourselves onto the belly. No rush at all. And you'll just let your arms and hands relax naturally, wherever they land. Your body might immediately take that stillness, but if you want some counter movement, feel free to bend into the knees and gently rock the hips and windshield wiper the legs. Again, you have that option to press down and take it all the way back to child's pose. Instead, you might roll on your back, or maybe you come into some other shape. It's at this moment that the critical mind begins to relax. So just doing what feels right. In the same way, when we wake up first thing in the morning or when we wake up from a nap, the body stretches or makes a groan or does whatever it does to be the body. Right? The critical mind doesn't even have a second to intervene. So we're coming into a very similar place. Letting the pause then help feel into those subtle sensations. Letting the pause give the body a moment to let the fascia contract back. Letting the fascial stretch settle into the muscle memory of the body. So if you'd like to stay here a little longer, you're more than welcome to do so. But whenever you're ready, we'll gently begin to awaken. And we'll slowly come back up to a seated shape. So no rush to get there. And you can take any movements along the way as we come up back to sit. Okay. No rush at all, but I'll start talking about our next pose, our next stretch. We're going to come into half dragonfly. So because this is a forward fold, you might take a pillow or blanket and prop the edge of the tailbone. We will start with the left side though. So I'll mirror you here. Right knee will stay bent and left leg will straighten out. Okay. If you have blocks or books that you're using, you might frame the outer leg and inner and outer leg as you take pillows or bolsters and blankets horizontal to fold over the thigh. Even if you don't have those, you can still bring your props horizontal over the leg or maybe just rest them along the leg instead. In either way, you can fold and maybe place another pillow on top for the forehead. If you're not interested in rounding that deeply, you don't have to. Maybe you sit tall and your forehead comes down to the top of a pillow or bolster. And in the event that you don't have any props at all, you would just sit tall, right? Palms can come down to support you. Either way you're in the pose, whether you're sitting neutral or rounding. So feel free to try a few different things. If you even need to prop a layer underneath the left knee, if that's helpful for you. If it's your right hip that might be pulling, folding over the left thigh, maybe you prop underneath that knee. There's many options. And the beauty of the practice is as we tune in and as we listen, we can rearrange the body, support the body however we need. But from here, we'll begin to soften. Now that we're in our second pose, can we begin to tap into or feel a little more deeply into our center of gravity? What is it doing in these moments of stillness? Where is our state of equilibrium as we arrive into these stretches, noticing comfort and noticing discomfort? And we'll be here in half dragonfly, just for a few more breaths. And if you'd like to stay a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to. But whenever you're ready, we'll gently press down and we'll start to lift up through the head and chest. And the body might want to pause right then and there, and it can. You can stretch up the arms. Maybe you side body stretch, maybe you twist to the right. But then as you continuously unravel, props can move to the sides and maybe both legs straighten, maybe both knees bend. You might again come forward, you might lay on your back. Just do whatever is best for you. Sometimes even when I sit and rebound, I bend my knees, bring my feet flat to the floor, and I just wrap around my shins and bring my forehead down. So just take this meditative pause where we can feel the energetic reset and the physical reset of the body. Noticing any subtle sensations, what parts of your body are in your awareness. And as you take that moment here, you're more than welcome to stay longer. But if you're interested in half dragonfly on the opposite side, then we'll gently awaken. We'll come back to sit and then take it to the right side. So right leg will straighten out, left knee bends in, foot resting towards the inner thigh. Finding the props to support your body as you fold over this right leg, whether it's a rounded spine, maybe halfway rounding, maybe not rounding at all, and just your palms are flat. Same idea. If you need a blanket underneath the right knee, take it. If you need a prop underneath the left hip, use it. And then from there, you can close the eyes. Whenever you're ready, you'll find stillness as you settle into the shape. We're not rushing into the deepest stretch, the quickest. We're not looking to pull at the tissue. We're not tugging it in such a way to force the body to stretch. We're arriving in this shape, in this happy medium, where we notice comfort within the body, but we might also notice some discomfort. And we can support the body here, just like letting go of a grip from a hose, as we soften through the muscles and as we relax through the layers of bone. Softening into the spaces of the organs. And as you soften and eventually find your center core, maybe we can notice that center of gravity. The contact to the floor or the contact to your props. And the contact to the body itself. And staying present here. A few more breaths in our half dragonfly. witnessing the sensations, witnessing the calming of the nervous system. And if you'd like to stay a little bit longer, you can. But once you're ready to release, we'll gently press down and slowly walking ourselves to lift up the head and chest. And again, the body might find some counter movement, whether it's a twist or a stretch of the arms. You can face any direction within your room, and sometimes that means moving some props out of the way, but not even thinking too hard about it, right? Allowing the critical mind to rest as we just arrive into the intuitive layers of the body or the intuitive layers of the mind. Doing what feels good, whether you're sitting, laying on your back or belly. These counter movements don't have to have a yoga name. It's just something natural for the body. And then taking that pause, wherever that may be. And so that we can feel the imprint of the previous stretch. It's just like when you would take a picture and you would have to pause, or not necessarily pause, but wait for it to develop. It's like through this moment, the fascia contracts back. That information is now settling into the muscle memory and the neural memory of the body. And within that pause, we get a brief moment of meditation or awareness or mindfulness, whatever you want to call it. If you'd like to stay here a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to stay. But whenever you're ready to arrive into the next pose, I'll start talking about that. But again, no rush to get there. Even awakening from rebound, sometimes you might take a natural movement or two, but there's no rush. So from here, we're going to let ourselves lay down so that we can come into a twist. Now we're going to let ourselves twist to the right side first so that the left leg is on top. And we're going to have a few options. So let me just scooch to the side of my mat. Now, option one is a supine twist. So we can hug the knees into the chest and you'll twist to the right, left leg on top. Right? If it's helpful for your back, you might have a prop underneath that bottom leg or maybe a pillow or blanket in between the legs as we open out to twist. In the event that you'd like to deepen the stretch or do a little bit more, maybe you take a pillow, blanket, block out to the right side of you. And as you twist your top leg, so the left leg is going to extend and then the foot will rest at some sort of height. So if I wanted more of a stretch, instead of using a blanket, I'd probably use a block. Or just fold the blanket better and not like the way I did. So that would still work. But here now within the twist, I would take another blanket and just prop my left knee as I open up. And your arms can rest wherever they'd like. Maybe one arm is higher, maybe one arm is lower. Feel free to readjust the shoulders if needed. So whenever the leg is extended out like this, I like to call it Hummingbird. So you might be in Hummingbird. If not, you'll be in Supine Twist, both knees bent. So feel free to take your time. Eventually you'll arrive when you're ready. And then we'll allow the eyes to close. And as you follow those internal cues, readjusting whenever needed, that helps honor the body. But then as we settle back into stillness, we're right at our edge. That place between comfort and discomfort. Noticing what the center of gravity might be here, or how we could describe it in a twist. Notice the breath feeding or nurturing our center of gravity, our state of equilibrium. And maybe as we stretch the fascial knots, as the knots detangle, as the fascial adhesions heal, our center of gravity is maybe more vibrant, or it's healthier or buoyant. Staying present here as you connect to your internal space. Our center of gravity and the presence of it is a result of the ability to sit, the ability to lay down, the ability to stand, balance, walk. But how else can we feel it internally in the same way we're noticing these fascial sensations of stretch? We'll be here for a few more breaths. Maybe softening a little bit more deeply. And before we release from the twist, maybe take a full cycle of breath. Just arriving into another inhale and another exhale. And then from there, very slowly, when you're ready, we'll let ourselves release from the twist. Now that might be moving the legs first or moving the arms first. Your feet pressing down, Your shoulders and maybe the head lifting. And just take your time. If you keep the knees bent, you might windshield wiper once you lay onto your back, knocking the knees to one side and the other. It might feel good to hug the knees into the chest as you wrap around the shins or the backs of the thighs. Noticing any cleansing breaths. Notice what the body is releasing. And then we pause for that mindful moment of rebound. And pausing however you'd like in any way that's comforting for the body. And softening even in the moment of rebound. And if you'd like to stay here a little longer, you're more than welcome to. But when you're ready, we'll prepare ourselves to twist to the left so that the right leg is on top. But for whatever reason, if you started on that side, you'll just do the opposite. So now that we twist again, supine twist, knees hug into the chest. I'll talk about twisting to the left with the right leg on top. Bringing the knees as high as into the chest as comfortable for supine. Whether a blanket or pillow is propping that bottom left leg or in between the knees or thighs. And then if you'd like to take that hummingbird shape, that right leg straightens out. Okay, so now I'll twist back towards this way. Just to remind you, you might bring a pillow, a blanket, a block over to the left side of the body so that the right leg can extend with the foot resting. And to be honest, you could just still do that on the floor, but it might not be the same effect. Letting yourself twist through the shoulders. And if you are taking hummingbird, sometimes propping a blanket or pillow underneath that knee that's extended can actually deepen the stretch, right? The support underneath that leg might deepen the stretch. That extended leg for that variation of hummingbird, it doesn't have to be locked straight. You might have a slight bend into the knee. But then from there, arms open out to the sides, up above you. Maybe the arms rest near the body. And as you close your eyes, we'll settle here. Our fascial tissue connects us from head to toe in one piece. So you can feel the fascial stretches or sensations in many different areas. And wherever your body is holding the most unnecessary tension is probably where you'll feel the stretch first. Letting go of any clenching, any gripping. When we talk about letting go, We're not letting go of the jaw completely. We're not letting go of the shoulders and throwing them away. Right? So what are we letting go of? We're letting go of any unnecessary gripping, clenching. Instead of the body's energy being wasted, keeping the jaw tight or keeping the quads tight or the toes gripping, letting go of that will let us utilize and recycle that energy into different systems of the body. Awareness and attention can now be focused in the immune system, or in the circulatory system, or in the lymphatic system. And so this letting go, this softening helps us to recycle back into our well, or into our center of gravity, or into our state of equilibrium, whatever you'd like to call it. The body regenerating from itself, with itself, for itself. So we'll be here in our twist for a few more breaths, noticing and witnessing. And then before we fully release, if you'd like to take another cycle of breath, another full inhale, another full exhale, until you're ready to begin unraveling. Maybe your arms move first, or the legs move first. No right or wrong way to release from the stretch. Just doing so slowly so that the fascia doesn't slingshot back. It has time to contract or retract, right? Sometimes the body will need more counter movement. Sometimes the body will need less, and you'll just settle into rebound. It's within our rebound where we can gently resonate, feeling the echoes of the fascia, the reverberations of the tissues. In the same way, you might connect to the strum of a guitar and feel the reverberations there from the instrument. Maybe the echo of a tuning fork or an echo of a bell. How we resonate with that in sound is what's happening in the body. So just being mindful there, pausing to notice. And then if you'd like to stay here a little bit longer, you're more than welcome to do so. But whenever you're ready, we'll let ourselves now transition into dove. And I'm going to give a bunch of different variations depending on how your knees feel right now in practice, how your hips feel now, how your back may feel. So it'll be a bunch of different options. We'll stay laying down, maybe still having a pillow underneath the head. And our knees will be bent, feet flat to the floor. So we're going to start with dove on the left side. Your left knee is going to open out to the side here. Okay. Now, in the event that whether it's for your hips or back and you want less sensation, straighten your right leg so that it's not so much of a stretch on the body. You can always straighten your right leg. If you feel good here, you might stay with the right knee bent. But if you want more, your right foot will walk underneath the left thigh. So let me switch sides here so that you can see. Left foot would walk underneath that right thigh any amount, as you'll notice the stretch in the hip or the quad or the glute. Continuing to support ourselves, you might take a layer of blanket and support the lift of the right hip or the lower back. That would feel good for me today if I was in practice. But again, you might even just take an outer thigh prop, right? Blanket or pillow block to support that outer left knee. So left leg is opening out, right knee is bent, or the leg will straighten if that's best for the body. From there, arms will relax out, maybe in cactus, maybe alongside of you, maybe the hands rest on the body. So no rush at all, but you'll allow yourself to arrive here. If you have any questions, let me know. And as you readjust the body, you'll eventually find the best place to begin. And then we'll settle. If you haven't softened into the pose, begin to do so. Notice where the body might be able to reclaim a little more space. Noticing once more our center of gravity. What does it feel like to consciously know it's there or its existence or however you relate to it? And staying present here as you might notice the shifts of sensation. Maybe where it feels lighter or where it might feel more dense. How the body responds or how the body adapts. Maybe how the mind acclimates to the stillness or quiet. We'll stay in dove for a few more breaths. And then whenever you're ready, we'll gently begin to release. Arms might lower down to the outer hips first. If the right leg was lengthened, you'll bend into the knee. And then we'll unravel the left leg and maybe we hug it into the chest. If you want to hug both knees in, feel free. And sometimes it'll feel good to straighten the legs up to the ceiling and roll into the ankles or flex and point into the toes. Taking any movements for the arms. Eventually, we'll pause in our rebound space. Maybe noticing any fresh breaths. Maybe noticing the nervous system slowing down or functioning in a more natural state. But you're giving the body a moment, not rushing it to go into the next thing. Honoring that present space here. And maybe even noticing the entire body breathing. And if you'd like to stay here a little longer, you're more than welcome to do so. Or whenever you're ready, we'll bend into the knees, bring the feet flat to the floor. And before we go into dove on the right, you might even pick up the hips for a moment and just readjust, glide the tailbone underneath you. From there, right knee will open out to the side. And again, depending on how knees, hip, or back feel, you might straighten your left leg long. You might keep the right foot, right exactly where it is, or you'll walk your right foot underneath your left thigh, changing the direction of the knee. Any props underneath this right thigh, any props underneath the left hip or lower back. And propping whatever you need, and then letting the hands rest either on the body, to the sides of the body, maybe up above the head in some way. One arm might even be higher than the other. So then we'll arrive here. Settling into our dove shape. Noticing what this side of the body expresses. And just as we did on the previous side, letting the body soften whenever you're ready. Maybe noticing subconsciously where we might be clenching or holding or gripping. And as we allow the body to release through these layers, notice how the body also receives. You still might experience thought, question, idea. The mind will be the mind as we allow the body to be the body. And checking in with the presence of your breath. Maybe checking in with the gaze at the backs of the eyelids. Noticing this internal screen. In the same way, we might use our external vision to help balance what happens within the internal vision as you look at the backs of the eyelids. And letting the eyes observe or see. If anything, just letting them rest. Just a few more breaths here as well in our dove. And then whenever you're ready, if the left leg was extending, feel free to bend into the knee and bring the foot flat to the floor. And as the arms lower down, we can help unravel this right leg as we hug the knee into the chest. Maybe around the shin or the back of the thigh, and you might hug both knees in from there. Rock gently side to side. Maybe the feet come flat. You windshield wiper the knees. Maybe your legs and arms extend to the ceiling or stretch up above the head. Remember, just take any counter movement. But for our final rebound, we'll let ourselves transition into Shavasana. So as you take these final movements, you might have to come up to gently sit for a moment just as you find some props to comfort you. So maybe there's a pillow for the head. Maybe you put socks on if you don't have them on already. Maybe you take a blanket to cover the body. Whatever is best for you. And if being on your back is not comfortable, feel free to lay on your belly, or maybe you roll to your side body, or even if you want to sit the entire time, feel free to sit and rest your back, maybe against a wall or chair. But we'll let ourselves come into complete comfort, hands and arms relaxing, legs and feet softening. And again, we'll close our eyes as we arrive into our final shape of active rest. And as we settle here, we'll begin to absorb our practice. As we welcome ourselves into the quiet and meditative space of Shavasana. Very gently. Let's begin to deepen the breath. And as we deepen the breath, notice the body here. Notice the way in which you've relaxed. Maybe notice the center of gravity now. Does it feel like? What does it offer you? What does it provide? What do you share or provide to it? But whenever you're ready, we'll begin to take some gentle movement as you wiggle into the fingers and toes. Maybe roll into the wrists and ankles. And you can even stretch the arms up and above the head, taking a full body stretch through the arms and legs. And very gently, we'll bend the knees and bring the feet flat to the floor. Taking any other final movements until you roll either to the right or to the left, and then pause, rest on your side body, feeling the release of the back and breath of fresh air along the spine. If you'd like to stay here and end practice, you're more than welcome to, or you'll gently press down and walk yourself back up to sit. Closing your eyes from there, taking another moment in stillness, just so that we can reflect. Noticing any reclaimed space within the body. Noticing any expansion within your breath. And noticing any clarity within the space of the mind or the space of the heart. Honoring our practice here and all of our intentions. We'll close our practice with one cleansing breath or the sound of Om. Hands can stay relaxed within the lap or gather into prayer. And together we'll take one big breath in. Om. And gently bowing the chin to the chest. Thank you for practicing with me this evening, being elevated through yoga. Namaste.